This is CBC Windsor News. I'm Chris Hensing. Thanks for joining us. Our top stories. Police say it's the city's most dangerous neighborhood. Jason Vio shows us what it's like to live there and what's being done to make it safe. Turning old clunkers into art, meet the person behind these iconic figures and see their newest piece of work. And students put new skills to the test, revitalizing a key piece of Canadian history. The Glengarry Neighbourhood is home to Windsor's largest affordable housing complex. It's also the place with the highest level of violent crime in the city. Police officers started working out of one of the buildings there back in August, available 24/7. Some residents say not a lot has changed. CBC Windsor's Jason Vio checks in to see how things are going.
As Michael Duke rummages through his bin of Lego, the sound does not muffle the issues that exist just steps away from him. Yelling, drug use, and violence are all things he's seen firsthand over the last 5 years he's lived here. Duke says it all continues despite an increased police presence in Glengarry.
It's just constant stress for anybody that lives here that doesn't do drugs, that doesn't do crimes. It's just, it's almost like living in prison.
Windsor Police has reported laying nearly 100 charges and arresting almost 50 people in the Glengarry area. That's just in the past month alone, when they began stationing officers in the neighborhood around the clock. Windsor Police say they're data-driven, but couldn't say today how many people they rearrest in Glengarry.
We're here for public safety. That's what we do. As far as frustration, I think the victims and the people that live there are just trying to reside there without any interruptions are the ones that are being, inconvenienced, because we're constantly showing up, constantly being there to make these arrests on these bail compliance issues. So
they say they make arrests, but as soon as they make arrests, those people are back within 24 hours in the neighborhood, being louder, rowdier than ever. Things have not got better.
I'm a little more hopeful, I'd say. I can't say I have high hopes, unfortunately, but from what I've seen, things are going well.
So this is our community garden.
Another sign of hope amid the problems that exist in Glengarry, this community garden.
I'm good, how are you?
Ashley Byer has only worked with the Windsor-Essex Community Housing Corporation for a year. When she started, she begged to stay right here.
I love it because this is the area that is 100% the most in need. There are a lot of vulnerable individuals. The only way to rectify that situation is to ensure that people are getting actual support and we're making positive change.
On paper, change is happening. Since police stationed themselves here, only one report of violent crime. That's compared to an average of 4 per month prior to that. The CHC says incident reports are also down, and there's a 77% decrease in fire infractions. They've been doing regular inspections of units to ensure smoke alarms aren't tampered with ever since a serious fire displaced people in 51 units back in February.
It's escalated over the years.
15 years ago, Julie Simard was a clerk and a property manager right here in Glengarry. She still works for the CHC and has seen firsthand what's changed and what hasn't.
15 years ago, we didn't have 24/7 security, and now we do, which is a huge change, but it speaks to the level of vulnerability and intensity in the neighborhood.
Another big part of what's changed recently is how residents view police. Before, she says people would avoid officers. Now, those same cops are trying to build relationships and trust with the people who live here. Still, Duke is trying to get out of Glengarry. He's asked to be transferred with no luck. So he's building Lego and posting the videos to YouTube, hoping for some extra cash so he can move himself out of Windsor's most dangerous neighborhood. Jason Vio, CBC News, Windsor.
There's a new bike lane going in on Victoria Avenue, something that drivers in Windsor are going to have to get used to. It's called a buffered bike lane. Dale Molnar explains what it means for cyclists and drivers.
These parallel lines were painted on Victoria Avenue between Wyandotte Street West and Erie Street West earlier this week. The two lanes separate the bike lane along the curb with the traffic lane. This is called a buffered bike lane. Vehicles, except for buses, have to stay out of the lane.
There's two solid lines, and then within those solid lines there's going to be hash marks that buffer it out, and that's a fairly wide buffer. In some cases it's a meter, in some cases it's a little bit wider than a meter. And then from Erie up to Pine, it's going to be more of a Sharrow style, which means share the road.
That's what we've been used to. Ward 4 Councillor Ronaldo Agostino says this will make riding a bike along here safer.
It just made perfect sense with this street and the width of the street, and I think there's other streets in the city that we could do the same thing with, where we want to slow down traffic.
The buffered lane increases the distance between bicycles and the adjacent motor vehicle lane, but it doesn't prevent traffic from going into the lane. Boakes says this may have some traffic calming effects.
It does make the driving space feel smaller to drivers, and it does have a slowing down effect. So in the long run, it possibly could have some traffic calming results.
This Victoria Avenue resident lives in the area where the lane is, and he's in favor.
And as an avid bird scooter user, I'm really happy to see the bike lanes coming into the city.
Not only will cars not be able to drive in them, they won't be able to park or even stop.
And that's one of the things that you're going to be seeing in the next couple of weeks here on the Victoria installation is on the side of the road with the buffered bike lane, you're going to actually see no stopping signs. So you can't even stop for a few minutes.
What about people getting furniture delivered and there's cars on the other side of the street? What's a delivery truck supposed to do?
They're going to have to find a safe place to pull over and do their business that way.
Boakes says they might add bollards to the buffer in the future, and this isn't the last of the buffered bike lanes.
We do have a design in process for Shepherd, and that would actually be the connection from Victoria all the way down to Kildare.
And later on this fall, a section of Kildare Road will get a buffered bike lane between Seneca and Shepherd. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
People fighting violence against women plan to take to the street tonight. It's for the annual Take Back the Night March. Now, this initiative, it aims to end sexual assault and domestic violence. Tonight's march begins at Charles Clark Square.
We'll have community partners out wrapping Charles Clark Square as if to show that they're wrapping the survivors with support.
Take Back the Night events have been held in Windsor since the 1980s. Over the years, it's moved to include trans and queer people as well as men. There's an auto shop in Windsor that always seems to have a few famous faces out front. The owners of McDonald's Auto Repair takes old car parts and they turn them into art. One of those pieces recently landed inside of a local gallery. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa spoke to the man behind the figures.
This is a special muffler out of a Subaru, which is very rare.
A rare part for a rare art. Peter Sully builds these life-sized figures out of old car parts.
This is a part of a muffler clamp.
As owner of McDonald's Auto Repair and Maintenance Shop in Windsor, it wasn't hard for Sully to get his art materials.
You have to save the parts, you have to scavenge the parts, you have to organize them, you have to clean them, prep them, and yeah, there's a lot of thought that goes into it. But the more you do it, the better your imagination gets, and it's actually endless. It's what you can come up with.
Sully guesses he's made between 400 to 500 figures, fictional characters like Darth Vader, real superstars like Taylor Swift. He builds the bodies, and local artist Glenn Hawkes paints on the faces. Many, like the former singer of Queen, Freddie Mercury, get auctioned off at local fundraisers.
They started auctioning off the sculpture, and it was like 1,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000. I was like, I thought I was dreaming. I couldn't believe it.
Freddie sold for $23,000, with the money going to a local charity.
What is that like for you to see that something that you've created is raising money, it's going towards a good cause, and people in the community are celebrating it and enjoying it?
It makes me feel really special. Like I'm doing something great. People that are less fortunate, I get to help them out.
The latest one that's creating a buzz, former Canadian hockey player Gordie Howe, holding a soon-to-be iconic North American landmark that's been named after him. The piece is on display at Art Windsor, Essex.
I know there's always that conversation around like, what is art and what is artistic? I like this idea of what if we looked at everything that we have sitting around us, whether we think of ourselves as creative people or not. It is interesting to think about, well, how would we use all of the things around us as materials in different ways for creativity?
The statue will be shown until fall 2025 when the new bridge is expected to open. Sully now wants to focus on recreating well-known Windsorites, but in order to do so, he'll need to free up some space, and he's hoping this one will find its way to its real-life inspiration.
We have a Jay Leno one right now. We're trying to get to Jay Leno. We're trying to get that shipped out to him. It's a really good one.
Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
Sully finds a way to make a lost sheep from that. We've got all of these art stories coming together at once. Students from the local public board got a hands-on lesson in history today. They're part of an advanced construction program. So they're in Puce restoring an old deck and revitalizing a piece of our past. It's connected to the Underground Railroad.
My name is Chris Goslin. I am the instructor for the Enhanced Construction Program through the Greater Essex County District School Board. And today we are at the John Freeman Walls Historical Museum working on refurbishing an old but very significant deck that's been a part of the museum for a long time.
We had to get careful of somebody falling through because we started it at goodness back in the time when Mrs. Rosa Parks would come here for 14 years, bringing students who she was training in the philosophy of Dr. Martin Luther King, peaceful nonviolence for change.
Man.
If I'm being honest, it's actually pretty nice that we're kind of doing this because it's like a part of our history in the sense of Canada. Because I've been here, I've born Canadian. It's kind of nice to see how they love and that they respect the people that were slaves that came and got freedom in this country.
So it's students from a variety of different high schools in Greater Essex. They come here for experiential learning and are the ones they're achieving credits towards their secondary school diploma, as well as hopefully becoming signed as an apprentice when they're ready to enter into the carpentry field.
I'll definitely bring my dad here because just seeing like the old trains and like all the old, I would say, tools, it's just fun seeing how they were used and seeing if you can actually use them yourselves because it's just a part of history that it's just meant to be.
I didn't expect we'd actually go to a historical place to fix it up. That's not what I would expect. I would expect to like build something like new and fresh from the grounds. My history teacher, she told me I should come here, check it out someday, but now I'm actually like working on the history.
Some of them have voiced to me that when they get older, they're going to bring their children here, and so it's going to continue. And ownership is the right word, and it makes them feel more connected to it, and they'll help take care of it. They'll become caretakers in a sense.
Colette Kennedy joins us now for a live look at the weather. Mid-September, people swinging hammers and breaking a serious sweat, but I don't think you got to do work for it this week, man. It's hot out there.
Yes, it is hot out there. I'm not one of them. Indoors, just building the weather graphics. Yeah, some gorgeous conditions that carry on for us. We are going to be breaking this streak, though. Yeah, the end is coming. Not that the weather's going to turn all that badly, but just that we're going to be seeing some rain coming back into, or at least a better chance of it coming back into our forecast. So our normal high at this time of year is 21, a normal low 11, and today's high 27, and how about our low of 14? So some mostly comfortable conditions. It does get a little bit humid, though at times we're still holding, in fact, at 26 in Chatham-Kent there at 24, but then you factor in those higher dew points and the humidex values and look at that into the low 30s in terms of what it feels like right now in Windsor. It does make it a little more challenging, I guess, to be doing some those work outdoors. Now, I know this kind of looks like a big what is happening here, but there are those upper winds going way around that ridge that's protecting us here in the east and giving us the nice conditions and the dry conditions, and just kind of around here, that is that trough there in the jet stream, and kind of in between the two where we're getting this energy of the jet riding through northwestern Ontario and parts of Manitoba, with that area of low pressure. There's definitely some active weather in there. You can see a couple of these lines as these are rotating through these lines of storms in here. So there's the low, but it's really all of these watches and warnings. This whole area in purple in northwestern Ontario, that is a tornado watch. Severe thunderstorm warnings there in red, and even across the lakes and Lake Superior, too, some very severe winds there, so advisories for that. So that's all the active weather because of all that energy The system is moving our way. However, as it bumps up against that ridge, it breaks down somewhat. And so what I'm going to give us is some high thin cloud into our skies tomorrow, keeping things dry most of the day. It's tomorrow in the evening. We could see some spotty showers starting to pop up, and even towards early Saturday morning, an isolated thunderstorm. The possibility is there. The timing of this won't be especially favorable as that frontal boundary comes through for us to see any active weather. But still, it's not going to be a rain out anywhere, but there'll be some places picking up some showers with that chance too into Windsor. Risk of some fog and some mist again tonight. Overnight temperatures generally in the mid-teens. And then how about 27 tomorrow? Again, feeling like about 32. Some of that high thin cloud moving in. And then there's that chance of the wet weather. It's really Friday night into Saturday. Still keeping it warm, however, through the weekend. And then we'll take it down a notch into the beginning of next week, but still above seasonal there Monday, Chris.
Okay, something to keep an eye on. Those fog days, they keep rolling through, eh?
I know. With the long nights and the humidity in the air, that's what you get.
Yeah, it's pretty out there, though. Thanks for this, Clep.
You're welcome.
We'll take a live look outside where it is as gorgeous as always. When we come back, though, we're going to talk about the after effects of some of this strong, wild weather that we've been seeing and what it's doing to people's lives. It has been a deadly and record-breaking year of wildfires in large areas of South America. These fires are devastating forests, wetlands. They're upending people's lives. CBC International Climate Correspondent Susan Ormiston has more.
The Amazon is burning, weakened by 2 years of record drought, with river basins at historic lows, smoke choking huge cities like Sao Paulo, and flames licking the borders of Brazil's capital.
I'm here in Brasilia, and I have been sick for almost 2 weeks with respiratory problems.
NASA satellite images show the spread of wildfires in red here across South America, and then poor air quality marked in yellow stretching over vast swaths of land. The rainforest is particularly vulnerable from an early dry season and a deadly combination of heat and land practices.
On one side, we have climate change impacting all the climate conditions that help fires to propagate. And on the other side, we have people setting those fires.
She means fires set by farmers to clear pasture and by criminals to deforest land.
So the level of economic losses are really big, and they are cascading every day.
The Brazilian president flew to Amazonas last week to survey conditions, saying Brazil is not prepared for this ongoing intensity of fires, further frustrating efforts to curb deforestation.
There has to be a change, and the opportunity is a lesson from this drought, but it doesn't seem to be getting through.
Not only in Brazil, in Bolivia, more than 10 million hectares have burned. Protesters urging the government to do more, with much of the country focused on fighting the fires. Like Sofia Bello, a volunteer in a fire brigade.
They're really scared. They haven't seen this, and they haven't seen this much drought, never. They are leaving their jobs, leaving their families to go and work 24, 48 hours nonstop.
And there's no reprieve yet. The rainy season is weeks away, and last year even that was sparse. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Toronto.
The leader of Hezbollah says Israel has crossed a red line after pagers and walkie-talkies used by the militant group exploded almost simultaneously in Lebanon. And it comes as both sides launch fresh attacks across the border. Chris Brown reports.
Lebanon is rattled and panicked after experiencing the horror of everyday electronic devices suddenly becoming bombs. Police were taking no chances, carrying out controlled explosions on anything suspicious looking. Of course we're scared, said Mustafa Sabai. Who can feel safe in this situation? Who can feel secure about their phone now? The toll of injured is now above 3,600, with Lebanese health authorities confirming 25 were killed in Wednesday's radio handset explosions, with 12 dead a day earlier from pagers. This trauma doctor said she's never encountered injuries like the ones she's been treating.
So they had puncture wounds on their faces, they had amputated limbs, they had open abdomens, intestines out, bowels out.
Israel's government has not admitted it was behind what appears to be an unprecedented tampering operation, but most people in Lebanon are behaving like it was. Hezbollah's chief, Hassan Nasrallah, accused what he called the Zionist entity of violating every international law and red line. As he spoke, Israeli fighter jets flew low over Beirut and struck at targets in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah's attacks on northern Israel have driven tens of thousands of Israelis from their homes. But Nasrallah vowed the militia, which Canada considers to be a terrorist group, will not stop its strikes as they're in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza. How Israel intends to capitalize on the chaos is also uncertain, even as the defense minister intensified his threats of further military action in what he called a new phase of the war. Some in Israel, though, are dismayed with that shift.
We don't care about Hezbollah. War must be ended.
Hostage families say getting their family members home should remain the priority, not Hezbollah. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
We have video from a wild traffic stop that happened in Michigan. We'll tell you the story after the break. A Michigan police officer recently performed a highly unusual traffic stop. The body cam footage there, it actually shows the officer climbing from one moving vehicle into another. They're trying to help the driver who's experiencing a medical issue. Take a look at it here from above. He and his partner were responding to a report of a pickup truck that's drifting erratically into traffic. And there it is. It was doing about 8 kilometers an hour when the cruiser pulled alongside. The deputy climbing through the truck's window, bringing it to a stop. The driver transported to hospital for further medical care. Well, when a rhino broke a front leg at a safari park in England, a team of specialists stepped in to help it get back on its feet. Oh, every leg counts for an animal that has to carry 800 kilos of weight around. So Amar, the southern white rhino, needed a 5-hour-long operation. Officials called it groundbreaking. That's because there are no records of someone dealing with this type of injury to help out a rhino. The team relied on their knowledge of treating horses and brought it to this animal. After 27 weeks of recovery, you're looking at it right there, Amar is able to join the rest of the crash which is what you call a group of rhinos. Pretty fitting. That's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for any news, anytime, you can go to cbc.ca/Windsor and download that CBC News app as well. All our videos are getting posted on there. You can watch us whenever you need us. Thanks.